Okay, but when's the last time you did a nosedive on a commercial plane with passengers?
Well, that's different.
Yeah, no.
That's the fun of flying on a small plane.
Yeah, yeah.
You can do that.
You're my little terrorist, aren't you?
I did steep turns with my mother.
Sounds like an indie band.
Steep turns with my mother.
Starring my father. Just a real stupid.
Yeah, punk rock band.
Yeah.
We'll get on the All Out of Angst podcast and
Okay.
And now time for The Viewing Room with Adam and Ethan.
Welcome to the viewing room, where we talk about films new and old, local and global. Today, we're going to be talking about Flight Risk. It's a little off, but... Anyways, that was my air guitar. Yeah, Flight Risk, hey? This might not be a long episode.
That was definitely, that music tops Flight Risk.
Yeah, that's
1,000 times over.
Those
I
two
would rather
chords,
watch
yeah.
this or listen to this theme song on repeat for 72 hours straight.
Well,
while locked
maybe
in
not
a
that long.
white room with padded walls.
Okay.
Then watch Flight Risk again.
No, I don't think Flight Risk was that bad, but I think it was close to being that bad.
This will be the lowest movie rating I have ever given.
And probably me too, but I'm pretty generous. So, we're talking about Flight Risk. Came out like last week, January 24th, 2025,
Yes.
with a budget of 25, I guess 2 weeks ago from when this episode came out, with a budget of 25 million USD.
You know, we saw a trailer for this when we were going to some other movie. Maybe, I don't know if I was going with you or something. We saw it for a different...
I mean, they're playing trailers for this since
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine, pretty
Yeah,
much.
right.
Like, yeah.
Anyway, I saw a trailer for it. I'm like, fuck, that looks like a terrible movie. I don't want to go see it. And then, like, last night or 2 nights ago or whatever, you text me. You're like, hey, you want to go see Flight Risk at 7:20 or something? I'm like, nope, I really don't.
I knew it was going to be
But,
bad. You knew it was going to be bad.
But I felt like, you know, we can't have a movie review podcast and only talk about movies we like. You know, that doesn't
Exactly.
seem fair.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'll go endure the torture so that you guys don't have to.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is... I had my ticket paid for by me, and I still haven't e-transferred to Adam because I figured I'd just get the next one because I couldn't pay for this one.
It was about the worst $30 I've spent in my entire life.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. This one's a wait for Netflix for sure, in my opinion.
Nope.
Yeah, maybe
Nope.
just don't.
Just don't. There's no need.
Maybe watch Airplane. That's a better movie. Okay. Well, it has grossed $16 million thus far, I believe. So, a bit of a sluggish box office run, but every movie right now isn't doing very good. You know,
January.
Even Mufasa is kind of like.
Well, that's a shitty movie too. So.
You know, everything, but that's a big Disney movie, right?
But it's still shitty.
Everything is slow. So this is actually number one at the box office right now, believe it or not. And yeah, it's grossed 60 million. It's gonna break even for sure. But
It is made on I will give them that. They did a lot on a low budget.
Lower budget.
Lower
I
budget.
think that's great. If it was like $70 million, dude, I would have flipped my lid. I'm very happy that like at most Mark Wahlberg took home $5 million, a humble $5 million. But like, come on, at least that's what happened. Like,
But I mean, you can see why. I mean, right? Well, it takes place on basically 3 sets. You have, you know, the motel, you've got the plane, and you got the runway.
yeah,
Those are the 3 sets, and 98% of it is on the plane.
yeah,
So in
and
terms of
you can do the 2 locations in a day of shooting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then the plane itself. I mean, you probably did the motel on the same stage they did the plane too, right?
Yeah, they just need one exterior shot. Yeah.
And then of course they have to get all the exterior shots of the plane and stuff, but also a small cast, very small cast, and the smallest cast they say, and and a lot of computer generated effects, a lot of CGI and stuff in this. But
Yeah,
it's cool to see.
there was one of the control panels on the plane when I think it might have been the radar. The text looked like it was floating on on one of the shots, and I was like, "Hold on a second, that's kind of strange."
What radar?
When she's looking at the control panel of the plane, some of the text on it looks like it's like photoshopped in.
Probably is.
But oh well, right?
The
I
control.
keep playing with this, I
yeah.
can't get it to stand up. I'm sorry.
I think we also have to kind of give the
There we go.
caveat that I'm a pilot, so I noticed a lot of things that were. I gotta sneeze.
That was more entertaining than this movie.
Yeah, it really was. It was very distressing for me, certain things that might have not been noticed by other people. And there was a lot of things that even a non-pilot noticed. Like there was things you were asking me about after, but there was a lot of details that I noticed that I know other people didn't.
I'm thinking, how should we organize this? Let's do the synopsis and stuff,
Yeah,
and
let's
then
do the synopsis.
we'll talk about all the things as we go along, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, I think, yeah.
And this is
It
also
gets brutal
this is
sometimes.
going to lead into a better discussion about like technical accuracy within movies, whether it's a medical drama or a pilot or technology or something, because that's one of the big things that I mean, in any movie that is about some specific field, there's going to be accuracies, there's going to be inaccuracies, and I think we can have a really good discussion about that in movies in general. So let's get the synopsis.
Yeah, well, I will say this film was directed by Mel Gibson, which was the biggest plot twist of this movie, was when the credits rolled and it said Mel Gibson. I was like,
I didn't
wow.
realize it was Mel Gibson after.
Yeah.
I didn't think that somebody like that could stoop this low. So
Well, maybe it's a discussion about where movies are going these days.
that is a much larger discussion. I do not want to
That's
have
an
right
episode
now.
on its own. Okay, well, we're talking cast. We have Mark Wahlberg, who plays the pilot, as he's labeled in the credits. We have Michelle, what's that name? Dockery? Michelle Dockery.
Yeah.
Plays Madeline. I don't know her,
There
sorry.
might be a Dockery.
Dockery.
Yeah.
And Topher Grace, who plays Winston.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen any of Michelle Dockery.
Nope. I thought she did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought she was probably the best
she
actress in this whole movie.
Mark Wahlberg was kind of funny, but a little bit over the top.
This is
with
my
the
Mark
raping.
Wahlberg. This is my Mark Wahlberg. I'm gonna rape you.
Literally.
That's like
That was the thing.
yeah,
was
it's just really
it was
weird.
really like it was over the top to the point that it wasn't funny at all.
So fun fact: Mark Wahlberg ad-libbed most of his lines, and according to Mel Gibson, some of them were so dark that they just couldn't make it into the film. So,
yeah.
Should they have made it into the film? Maybe it would have made it more interesting. But also, his whole character is just like, yeah, I'm angry and I don't care if we die. And like, also, guess what? I'm going to rape you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, Mr. Bald Guy, let's not do that. We don't want that. And he's like, but I'm bald and I'm Mark Wahlberg.
Literally. I don't know. Like that and that's not even a reflection on Mark Wahlberg. Holy, I forgot his name for a second.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg, because I think he's still a good actor, but this is not his finest work.
This is like when Kevin Hart agreed to do Borderlands or any Kevin Hart movie, actually. Yeah, any Kevin Hart
He's
movie.
pretty good in the Jumanji movies.
Dude, I like Kevin Hart as an actor, but you can't deny that he doesn't pass up on any movie
No.
or anything like that, right? It's like Jack Black doing the Minecraft movie. Like, holy
Don't
smokes,
even get me
man.
started on that, man.
Oh man. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's do a synopsis. Flight risk film synopsis. A U.S. Marshal boards a small plane to transfer a government witness to New York. As they cross the Alaskan wilderness, tensions start to rise as not everyone on the flight is who they appear to be. So we kind of start off in a hotel room. There's Winston. He's there. He kind of seems like a shady crypto dude or something. We don't really know. Maybe just kind of like incel-y in a way. And we find out he's like double-crossed like a financial guy who has
he's the
ties.
financial guy for a mob boss.
Yeah, who has ties to the FBI and other things like that, which we'll get to how I think that's unnecessary in this film. And yeah, so he gets arrested. He gets taken as a witness to testify against this one dude. So he's going to be flown from Alaska, where he's hiding, to wherever. Where did they say?
Seattle.
Seattle. Is that Seattle? Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to go there.
Because they're just flying straight down the coast, right? Because Alaska's up here.
Mm-hmm.
We're flying straight down to Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Cool. I can't wait. We should go. We should have done this in a plane. Oh, this would have been so good to do in a plane.
No, because I'd get too angry and the plane would crash. Because I demonstrate how the mixture works when we get to that point. I demonstrate how the mixture works,
All
and
of a
then I
sudden
kill the engine.
our airspeed would tank, and we'd do a nosedive,
Yeah,
and all of a
exactly.
sudden, yeah.
I could stall the plane. I could show you what a stall looks like sometime.
Yeah, I really don't want to do a stall.
We could do spiral dives. We could do spins. We could do a spin.
Let's not do this,
You
please.
stall the
before your
plane and then you
license
kick
gets
the rudder and
taken.
then.
I want to go home and see my family.
I practice them all the time.
Yeah, do that on your own time, not when you have people in the plane. That's like ground zero type shit.
No, you have to be able to do it for your license.
Okay, but when's the last time you did a nosedive on a commercial plane with passengers?
Well, that's different.
Yeah, no.
That's the fun of flying on a small plane.
Yeah.
You can do that.
You're my little terrorist, aren't you?
I did steep turns with my mother.
Sounds like an indie band.
Steep turns with my mother.
Starring my father. Just a real stupid.
Yeah, punk rock band.
Yeah.
We'll get on the All Out of Angst podcast and
Okay. So we're talking about flight risk. Madeline, she gets on this plane. Pilot comes by. Kind of a weird looking guy. He's weird. Sounds like Larry the Cable Guy for some reason. He's got a little bit of blood on his neck for some reason. We're not really too sure about that. And Winston, our boy, is kind of chained up in the back seat, and he's kind of just like weird. This is his character trait, and awkward, and says there's sexual tension between him and Madeline, which okay, all right.
a lot of this movie is really just bad sex jokes and
yeah.
and like
Yeah, dude. Mel Gibson wrote this shit with his dick in his hand.
Literally.
He was like, yeah, that's good. I went to the hand.
Literally.
That's gross.
Literally,
yeah.
though.
No, yeah. It's just, okay. Whatever. So we find out Mark Wahlberg's doing his thing. You learn some good exposition. They take off. And as they're taking off, I noticed something, and I talked to Adam about this after the film. So they have this nice big runway. There's no planes in Alaska, but it's a nice big runway, well maintained for an Alaskan.
for backcountry, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he does the takeoff. Everything's looking good. But instead of going to the onto the runway, as he's taking off, he starts to bank to the left and just go away. So there's still like 100 feet or more of runway left.
Well, a lot more than 100 feet. They're about 100 feet off the deck.
And I'm like, I'm seeing him turn, and then I notice he's going would be going over more like ATC or whatever they would have there, or maintenance buildings, whatever, hangars. And I'm like, okay, but to me, as someone who isn't a pilot, and I wanted to have Adam talk about this, to me who wasn't a pilot, I was like, that's dumb. You have all this open airspace and mountains. You need to get high up into the air, not turn and bank over buildings. It's dangerous because you're flying over buildings, but also you need to get up. Your goal isn't to turn around while you're like 300 feet off the ground. You need to be up and do that, right? Out of the way from other planes, out of the way for like things like that, right? When you take off at Vancouver, and you take off the runway and you're over the ocean, you go and you go up, you climb for a bit, and then you turn. Yep. It's not like while you're turning up, you're turning as well. So I wanted you to.
There's a couple good things to point out here, and I'm gonna proceed all this with the caveat that I'm a prairie pilot. I'm not a mountain pilot. So most of my experience comes from flying in a province where the variation in elevation is a few hundred feet at most, right? But the general rule that I follow flying VFR, visual flight rules, which means you're not following specified pathways in the air and under control the whole time and everything, is when I'm taking off, I wait till I'm at least 500 feet, and past the end of the runway. So if I'm at 700 feet when I pass the end of the runway, then I'll start turning. If I'm at 300, I'll wait till I'm at 500 feet before I start turning. That's my general rule. There are times where we turn earlier. Again, under visual flight rules, we will sometimes, the tower will instruct us to, they'll say, make the right or left turn as soon as safely able. And so what that means is basically as soon as you're not going to hit anything when you start turning, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens. That in itself happens. But the problem that I have is that on a flight like theirs, I'm about 98% sure that they would be on an IFR flight plan, instrument flight plan, which means they're most likely under control the entire way, maybe not in Alaska. But they are following specified pathways in the air. And I know of very few places in the world, Alaska might be one of them, where you're going to be turning like that early. Most of them are going to be a lot higher than that. I mean, they were 100 or 200 feet off the deck when they started turning, which is just not going to happen.
They couldn't find the plane for a while, though. So does that mean, like, when
No.
they're up in the air, so does that
So,
mean, like, that's
no,
not controlled
no,
then?
no.
Or would
Wait,
that...
So that is controlled if there's no radar, which happens in northern Canada a lot, or Alaska. But the way it works is not that they can just do whatever they want. You're still on that instrument flight plan, which means you're following those procedures, those pathways. There's just nobody there that's making sure you're not going to crash into another airplane. They are making sure, but in a different way. So if I'm taking off out of Vancouver, right, there's somebody watching me the entire way. But if I'm taking off out of Churchill, Manitoba, they're not going to get radar coverage until I'm like 4,000 or 5,000 feet, right? So they're not going to clear anybody else to take off out of that airport until they've got me on radar, so they know exactly where I am. And they're also not going to clear anybody else to go into that airport until I am out. It's called the 1 in, 1 out rule.
It's like when someone goes down a water slide.
Right.
If a kid goes down a water slide, you wait to see them come out of the other end, or until the green light comes on, and then you go down.
Exact same thing. 1 in, 1 out. And so it's hard to know whether they were on a visual flight plan or an instrument flight plan, because he calls up Alaska Center, and he doesn't get an instrument clearance. Mm-hmm. But I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't be in that situation. That being said, one of the other little things I noticed was Center cleared them for takeoff. It's an uncontrolled airport, which means Center is not clearing you for takeoff. Center would have given them an IFR clearance. If they were VFR, they wouldn't have needed to talk to Center at all. So that's part of the reason I think they were on an IFR clearance.
I get it now.
So
the whole reason he's a bad guy is because he didn't follow ATC protocol. And so now it's going to play at the start of every pilot's class as a reminder of why you need to follow protocol.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just their radio work on through the entire thing was completely inaccurate. I don't think there was ever a point where I'm like, yeah, that was accurate. But yeah, I mean, like, and honestly, this is a good way to lead into making things like accurate, like technically. So for example, like, let's say we're watching The Good Doctor or Grey's Anatomy or something like that, right? And they spit off a whole mouthful of medical jargon, right? Mm-hmm. I am not a medical person, but I know from watching YouTube that they're not very accurate with what they're saying a lot of the time.
Sure.
I also
someone else tell you
that
it wasn't accurate, like I did at the movie theater.
Yeah. I also know from, helping my girlfriend study for nursing that when they actually talk properly about medical things, it sounds just as confusing to your average non-medical person, right? And it's the same thing with the ATC radio, right? If I was going to give them an uncontrolled IFR clearance, like, it would sound just as confusing or just as realistic to your your non-pilot or non-controller viewer. And so to me, I don't understand why these movies, when they focus so heavily on one particular thing, like, flying, all they have to do is hire one pilot who you could do so easily. When you have a budget of $20 million, I guarantee you go to any pilot, with any experience and say, hey, we're making a movie. Would you be able to advise us on how accurate this is? There's very few people in any profession, I believe, that would turn down the opportunity to see their thing represented accurately. You wouldn't have to pay them much of anything. They would just love that opportunity. I mean, at least I would, and I think a lot of other people that I know would. And I just feel like it will be such a good use of money to make it accurate. even if your average viewer doesn't get anything out of it, I think it's more of a care and attention to detail thing, right? Like, why not? When you've got the money, why not?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there were pilot advisors on set, or they were doing things when they were building the set, and they did have experts and researchers. But I do think it comes down to budget and details that I think something we have to realize too is people like you who are actually pilots are going to be hyper focused on some of those elements that want to be as realistic as possible. And I think if you're doing a thing focused around that thing, maybe it should be as realistic as possible. This movie doesn't take itself extremely seriously sometimes, in my opinion, that I think like it maybe didn't need to be super serious. But like for me, I didn't think much of it was unrealistic. I thought the turning at the runways looked weird, so that's why I asked you. But if you said, "Oh no, Ethan, that's like what you do," I wouldn't know any different because I'm not a pilot. But I think when you see like the buttons on the radar are actually backwards, or you see something like with the throttle that's not correct, right? I think for me, when I see someone fell on the control stick and the plane's taking a nosedive, I'm like, oh, okay, it happened. And that's even after being in like the front seat of the plane with you and having you explain the shit out of things that went one ear in, one ear out the other. But you know what I mean? So yeah. I think for people like you who are pilots and who are trying to be critical and look, it's super easy to be like, that's not accurate, that's not accurate. But I do think there probably was help hired on set to make the important things accurate, like what it actually looks like and how to build that. But
the thing is, that wasn't even accurate either.
yeah, with the fuel tank.
Well, the fuel tank, and even like when they're reading out their altitude and they clearly show the altimeter and it says 7,500 feet and they say, oh, we're at 3,000 feet. Okay, you might be 3,000 feet above ground, but that's not the altitudes that are communicated with ATC. That.
But to be fair,
like
it is being flown by a woman who
you're going down a dangerous path there, buddy.
It was a woman pilot. Okay, no. It was being flown by a woman.
Spit it out. Come on,
paid 40% less. No. Okay, no.
Finish the sentence.
Sorry. Madeline, the pilot, I'll use her name, had never flown.
Right.
She is with whatever group she's with.
She was a marshal. US
Marshal, yeah. And so instead of when she contacts air traffic control to be like, oh my God, Mayday, we're going down. She's like, yeah, Mayday, my pilot's down. How do I fly? Instead of like, this is U.S. Marshal Madeline Davies here, and I have just had to shoot and kill my pilot. How do I get down? I need contact now. Back up, help. And instead she's like, yeah, Mayday, we're going down. Bravo, 6-9, Roger, Dodger. I don't know the call sign anymore because this movie was 2 days ago. But
November 208 uniform or something like that?
Yeah, uniform.
Something
Yeah. Roger, Tango, Bravo, Alpha. You know what I mean? It's just like she was just like had no conviction, and then like she realized she had a satellite phone in her pocket, brother.
Well, also like I mean that you know what? Fair enough, but like
man.
I don't know.
For me, it's not even that's unrealistic. I'm just like, come on.
I mean, going to Alaska, why wouldn't you have a satellite phone? That seems reasonable.
It's looking at Winston being like, I have a satellite phone, which means I don't have to connect to any cell phone towers in the area.
No shit, that's like, what a satellite phone is.
Yeah, it was just explaining it to the audience so obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the problems I have with this movie. That, like, I think a lot of things that bug you, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of it is accuracy. In a way, as a pilot, right?
Yeah.
And I understand how that would bug you, right? It's the same thing if someone made a documentary of like your life, essentially.
Yeah.
You'd want those details to not maybe be dramatized a bit for a movie, but like relatively accurate. Yeah. For me, a lot of it is like, there's no plot twists that like you don't see coming a mile away. When they don't kill Mark Wahlberg for the third time and he comes up and attacks them once again, you know there's another 20 minutes left of the movie, right? You know all these things are happening, and so for me, it's like it's spoon fed to you. There's no surprises, and it's like, I don't know. It just made me feel like I was an idiot while I was watching it. I was like, okay, like, and okay, again, maybe doesn't take itself too seriously, but like I don't find it enjoyable enough to be entertained by it not being taken seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think Mark Wahlberg is an interesting enough character or funny enough. All he was, and it's not like it's not scary enough to be creepy. It's just, oh, it's just is the
It's just
best way.
weird.
It's just, and it's like not like oh weird quirky A24. It's it's like that was weird. It's just like
Yeah, no, I got you.
Because he just looks in the camera, licks his teeth a few times, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna rape you, Winston, and then I'm gonna rape you, Madeline. And part of my language, maybe we shouldn't be using that word, but it's like he says that, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
like
And
seriously?
then it's just innuendos all the whole rest of the time, and
yeah.
I don't know. And also like to me, it's like it's almost like a bad look, even just his character when they first get in and how nonchalant and like there's a certain set of standards that pilots follow that and I mean I get that's his character. He's not a commercial pilot. Well, I guess maybe he is. I mean, he knows how to fly, so obviously he is a pilot, but there's just a certain set of standards that is followed, and I feel it was disingenuous to that industry to paint that kind of picture. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's not a documentary
No,
about aviation
but
and how to fly.
again, it comes back to me is the care and attention to detail.
Yeah.
Like to me, like I said, when you have a $20 million budget, it would not be a budgetary constraint, in my opinion, to get somebody to look over your script and change a few things.
I
I
feel like they may have had that though, and the thing is, they might have just had to. I'm playing devil's advocate, but I'm assuming that they had that because they had to
I really
build the
don't think they
set,
did.
and then some things don't make it in because of budget constraints, or things that they don't need because the average person isn't going to know. Right? I'm not going to know certain things aren't accurate there.
right.
When
But that's my
when she
point.
looked
though.
at the altitude
So
and said 3,000, I was like, okay, 3,000 feet.
right, but you're saying that they hired that, but then they ignored it because it doesn't matter.
No,
But my
I'm
point
saying
is
you
they.
can't get 100% of the details all the time.
But to me, they got none of it. Like there was so many details that were just wrong, that it was like there was, and it like literally, it's like instead of using the red lever, use the black lever. Little tiny things.
Yeah, and well, I mean that. Hey, they might have told Mark Wahlberg or whoever to use that, or
No, they didn't.
or Madeline, and
They didn't.
then all of a sudden, on accident, they
They
pulled
didn't,
the other
because
lever,
they were
right?
talking. They were talking. So I'll explain this one because this is another interesting thing. So this is where
he
they're
does say pull the red lever. The dude.
they're talking about when she's like, we need to go faster, and he's like, okay, well if you do that, you're going to use more fuel, which is accurate. And she's like, it's fine, we'll do it anyway. I don't know why you're arguing with a pilot that's trying to save you, but that part aside, he's like, okay.
Yeah, you're right. He's like, well, you're in charge of this vessel, so I guess you're gonna have to.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's like, push the red lever all the way forward. That's your mixture control. So the thing is, the mixture control in a carbureted engine like this, it controls the mixture of fuel to air that's entering the cylinder to be like to create the or the
Yeah.
you know the mini explosion or whatever you want to call it in the piston to So when you get up to cruise, you do what's called leaning the mixture, and so you when your mixture is rich, that means there's lots of fuel in that mixture. It's a high fuel to air mixture, right?
Sure.
When you lean out your mixture, you lean it out to the basically the like peak performance point. So where the mixture of fuel to air it's less fuel, but it's just the right amount to get you the optimal amount of power. So they've done that. They've leaned it out. So his idea of getting more power is pushing the mixture full rich. So he's correct that that's going to use more fuel, but that's actually going to give them a very slight performance drop because you've leaned it out to get better performance. So by pushing it back in full rich, you've now slightly decreased your performance. If they wanted to get better speed, it would use more fuel, but they push the throttle in. That gives you more power. It's your throttle that controls your power, right? So you push your power up a little bit, lean your throttle a little bit more, and there you go. Or lean your mixture a little bit more, sorry. So something as simple as that, like, it's just wrong, and there's no reason for it to be wrong. It would be just as interesting if it was accurate. Why not, you know? Because, I mean, there's a good percentage of the world that's pilots that's going to watch this and go, this is fucking stupid. So
There's
why not?
also a very large percentage who aren't, though.
Right, but it's just, again, it comes down to care and attention. Anytime I watch a movie, even if it's a medical thing, I might not be able to point out all the things that are wrong, but I know there is, and I want to see it represented accurately.
Well, yeah, and I think that's something we talked about before is, in my heart, I absolutely believe it should be represented properly, and there should be care and attention to detail, because you notice that. I didn't notice that the fuel mixture thing, whatever, was wrong until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Or sorry, no, I looked over in the theater and you were going.
That was basically me through the whole movie, though.
And
Every 2 seconds, I was like,
but for me, it was like I didn't notice that stuff, right? But again, there is certain aspects like that care and attention go a long way for, because you feel like you're actually gaining knowledge when you're watching it. You're not seeing a surface level amount of like whatever. I feel like what I saw was a very surface level, whatever, skim the top of what a pilot might do.
Yeah.
Compared to, well, I've sat in the cockpit with the plane with you while you did all your things, and it just none of it made any sense to me, right?
Right.
Like, because it's all so complicated and cool and awesome, and that's a more sophisticated, real thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like for this, it was more of like, okay, what's the bare minimum we can get away with to make people believe it enough?
That is a good point in that, and I mean, now that I know what I know, that part of it is lost on me. So maybe any if you had gone more realistic, it would be just that much more confusing. I you know, and that is a fair point, that maybe realistic would have been too much, but.
Well, no, I
don't
think as a whole, movies deserve to be realistic. You know, we've talked maybe like certain comedy movies don't need to be as realistic because there's a suspension of disbelief element, right? And
No.
I think that's part of going to the movies sometimes is you do have to suspend disbelief that you're watching this happen, right? And that's way harder to do when you know everything. When that belief is so ingrained in yourself, it's hard to suspend it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not suspending belief, you're suspending fact. In a way, that's how I look at it, right? And so I'm suspending belief, but you'll have to look at the screen and argue, no, that's not how it's done, right? And so it's like I wouldn't know anything better. Again, I knew better in the theater because I'd look over and you were like, just dying.
And you know, like even just like little things again, it's all the little things. Like, you know, when they're making turns, he would have her flip the autopilot off, turn the plane, and then turn the autopilot back on.
Yeah, she couldn't turn, but you can turn with the autopilot on, can't you?
Yeah, but that's not how the autopilot works. The autopilot is set. In this case, there's a few different modes. So there's nav mode, which means it's following the pre-programmed GPS route or whatever, or VOR routes. It's following a pre-programmed route. Or there's heading mode. Those are the two main modes. Heading mode, you dial in a specific compass heading you want it to follow. It follows that heading. It flies that heading. So if I turn the autopilot off, I turn left 45 degrees, and then I flip the autopilot back on. Assuming I had it in heading mode, it's just going to turn back because it's set to that heading.
So once you turn, like say you're set to go north, but then all of a sudden if you turn northeast and you're starting to head east now, your plane's going to want to correct and go back north instead of east because you're supposed to be going north.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know of an autopilot system on any modern aircraft where it's just going to hold whatever heading you have it set on, or whatever. It's just going to hold whatever heading you turn it on at. And even at that, to me, like, you leave the autopilot on, and instead of having her turn the airplane, you have her just turn a heading gauge. That's all you have to do is turn a heading knob to turn the airplane. Then it's going to turn to that heading. Like something like that, you know?
I don't
I
know.
don't
Well,
know.
I think if you're trying to explain it to the point of someone who's just flying an aircraft for the first time and they're panicked and this is what they have to do, and from an audience perspective of like, oh my gosh, how is she going to land this plane? It's kind of like maybe a bit better that she turned it, but it makes sense. Again, that's
Mhm.
like another detail that I wouldn't have known. But yeah, like it's something simple like that, right? For like, did it make more sense in the story to have her turn herself? Like, well, it gave her something more to do with her hands. It gave like more directions for the thing. Would it be? I bet it would have been harder to explain. I guess the concept of a steering wheel is so
Mm-hmm.
ingrained in us.
Well, this is another thing
that we
that
understand
annoys me.
that I think it's harder to explain. Like, say, like imagine you had to dial in with an Allen key or cruise control. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Well, it's a lot easier to explain that. Oh, you were using your hands to.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
something more tangible.
That actually brings up another good point, because this is something that I would have liked to have seen them do that that would have, in my opinion, furthered the story that she's never flown an airplane before. So when we went up and I let you fly,
Yes.
one of the first things that I had to explain to you, and this is the same thing anybody I take up who's never flown before. You're used to driving a vehicle, right? So when you're making a turn in your vehicle, you turn the steering wheel, you hold the steering wheel in that, and then you turn out, right?
Yeah.
But in a plane, the way the ailerons work, which is what controls your roll, is they're deflecting the wind. So when I'm turning or when I'm banking to the right, my my right aileron is deflecting the wind upward, which forces the wing down, and the left wing is directing the wind down, which forces the wing up, right? That's what creates that bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I just hold they turn, right? And if I just hold it right there, I'm just going to keep rolling because they're not in a neutral position with the airflow, so they're going to keep that bank going, right? So when I took you up and I'm like, okay, I think I explained that first. And then when you turn, so what is it? You set the bank angle and then you neutralize your controls. That's like the biggest difference. And they didn't do that. She just holds it and they keep turning, but they're turning at a constant rate, which means her controls should have been neutral. And that could have been a good opportunity where she starts
Otherwise
turning.
you start doing like barrel rolls.
Right. You're just going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
And that could have been an opportunity where she holds it like a steering wheel. All of a sudden they keep turning. She's like, oh shit. And then she overcorrects. Like, that's a perfect opportunity where making it more realistic would improve the viewing experience for somebody who's not a pilot, right?
Right.
Showing little details like that.
But
and
instead,
then,
it's cooler to watch them fly through a mountain covered in snow and crash through the other side.
I was hoping you wouldn't mention that. Like, anybody who's ever been around an aircraft, especially an aircraft of that size, knows, like, if I push too hard on the plane's skin, I can dent it.
Yeah.
And instead, you flew through an ice cap. And it was
not
fine.
the Tim Hortons kind.
Yeah, right?
Dude.
Like, it's
Okay, suspension of disbelief. I thought it was a really cool shot, but like when you look at it, it's like also, yeah, it didn't happen.
No.
You know what I mean?
And then,
it's like
right?
a grandpa's fishing story.
and
You're like, come on.
It's like right before that when they're going straight towards the ground and then they pull up, the plane would have broken apart. There's this thing called VA, which is your maneuvering speed, and basically every aircraft has one. And what it is it's the maximum speed at which you can make full control and full deflection of the controls. If I'm over that speed and I make a full control input, I'm going to overstress the aircraft like too many G's, right?
Mhm.
And it could break apart.
It's like when you're inertia, right? Like, but on the outside of the plane. Does that make sense? Is that right?
It's centrifugal force.
Oh, whatever. You know, it's the same thing.
But
You know when you stop too hard and like your ribs can go through your lungs or whatever? Your lungs can go through your ribs?
I have not heard of that, but sure.
I saw an SGI video that really scared me in driver's ed where like someone stopped too hard and all of a sudden they started suffocating from the inside because they're like a rib went through one of their lungs. But I was like,
Okay.
is that kind of like the same thing but like to the plane?
Well, so you know how G's are forces of gravity, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure, I thought G was like Snoop Dogg.
yeah, Snoop Dogg double G. Anyway, but like when they're going towards the ground and like, oh my God, we're getting faster and faster and faster. They're definitely over VA for that. I don't know exactly what that was. It's probably a Caravan or a Kodiak or something. I'm not exactly sure. I tried to find out.
Well, your engines are pushing you down, so you're going faster down, but you also have the force of gravity. And then you mean to tell me you have 100 feet to somehow
and when they pull
full power up,
and when they do that, for number one, like the aircraft would have broken apart. I'm sorry. There's no way that it wouldn't. Maybe not broken apart, but you would have had structural issues with the plane after that. That would have then, when you crash through a mountain, definitely would have broken apart. It's just, and I get it. It's dramatic, whatever, but like.
Not only that, as the plane is going fully down, there's this really weird shot where she looks over at Winston, and Winston's panicking and like falling around, and she's like just standing up, and the plane is going like this, and
because she's not in her seatbelt, she's not wearing a seatbelt either at that point.
She's standing up. She would be falling with the plane.
Mm-hmm.
You've ever stood on like the roof of a moving vehicle and jumped?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Man, whatever. It's whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. Again, suspension of disbelief, whatever. Cool shot, maybe. Is it something that I think the Millennium Falcon could do? Yeah, sure. Like when I believe the Millennium Falcon has enough G's in it to like hyperspace jump, whatever. Cool. Like I believe it. Suspension of disbelief. Does this little Cessna or whatever it is have the capabilities to do it? No, probably not.
I read one article that said it was a small Cessna, which maybe that's why I'm saying it's either a
small Cessna. That's the biggest Cessna I've ever seen, right?
Well, it's either a Cessna Caravan, or I was wondering if it was maybe a Kodiak, because a Kodiak would be more likely found in Alaska. But yeah, no, like that. Well, Cessna makes like their Citations and some of their other like business jet ones, which are bigger. But yeah, as far as like prop Cessnas go, besides your multi-engine lineup, that's one of your bigger ones.
It was a fairly big plane.
That's what made
especially for a prison transfer.
Well, like, it's not even that it's a prison. It's
supposed to be incognito.
It's a charter, right? Yeah, so whatever the charter plane has. That's why I wondered. Maybe it was a Kodiak.
But it seemed too big almost for someone going to Alaska, like flying a plane in Alaska, because I feel like it's like bring bare minimum, right? Everything you need. No,
like I said,
right?
if it was a charter company, that would be realistic.
Think so? Yeah.
Yep.
Again,
I would say so.
I know nothing. I'm just to me, I was like, oh, it looked big.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it seems realistic to me, that part of it. But I wish they would have given us a little more information on what it was. But
yeah,
whatever. I don't know. Even little things again, like the fuel tank when she's shooting at. This is another problem. Like even the plane stuff aside, the story part, which is like, I'm not going to shoot him, or if you shoot me, you'll hit the fuel tanks, which is wrong. The fuel tanks are in the wings. There's no fuel lines where, as I explained to you guys, the engine is at the front of this plane. Fuel tanks are in the wings. Where he's sitting is behind the wings. It's like, if you shoot me, it's going to go into the fuel tank or into a fuel line. The fuel line, first of all, the fuel tanks...
U.S. Marshal is going to go through your head and out the window.
Yeah, right. First of all, fuel tanks are in the wings, so she's not going to hit the fuel tanks. 2, she's not going to hit a fuel line because the fuel lines are running from the wings forward to the engine, and you're sitting behind the wings. There's no fuel lines where you are.
That's assuming her pistol was high enough caliber to go through his body and pierce the side of the plane.
Yeah.
That's like, he's like assuming there's going to be a clean shot right through. Like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, it's probably like a 9mm or a 45. Like, there's no way it's...
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't just shooting like bird shot through.
Yeah, It wasn't like a 50 cal Desert Eagle or something.
Yeah. She just pulls out like the biggest
the Deadpool 50 cal gold-plated Desert Eagles.
Yeah, dude. She just pulls out a 50 caliber sniper rifle and starts setting it up on the back of the seat and just like actually just like blasting a hole through his stomach, man. Oh, whatever. Okay, but whatever. I guess we'll keep going with the plot. Now that we've gotten some of our grievances out of the way, we find out that Mark Wahlberg's character, the pilot, has kidnapped and killed another pilot who was supposed to be the one flying him, and now he's working with the bad guys to kind of take them down, and very scary. So now there's an evil guy flying the plane.
I will say that her, like, when they show like the wound on his neck and like she's really suspicious and everything, that seems really weak to me. It's a minor wound. People get like injuries, and like to me that's not
I
something
think
to be suspicious of. And when she and asking, "Oh, what happened to your neck there?" Right? Like that's reasonable. And when he's like occupational hazard, I'm like, okay, maybe like when you're in those kind of operations, you're not. It's not like an airline where you walk in and the plane's ready to go and you just fly it, right? Like when you're up north, you do a little more of the work yourself. Um, but still, like that seemed a little weak to me. Like, just like make something like the blood stain was good, but like the wound on the neck.
I think I think she's hyper analyzing in a way and being overreactive in my opinion because she failed her first op and now this
That's
is her
true.
next
That's a good
op
point.
coming back
That's a
from the
good point.
desk. So I think she's probably like anxious. But yeah, I mean like yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
So some of it's like eh. Anyways, Mark Wahlberg attacks him because they're kind of starting to realize that he's not a good guy. So they tie Mark Wahlberg down after defeating him for the first time instead of like killing him, like seriously incapacitating him. They put zip ties around his arms. She zip ties her as well.
Do we have zip ties around the studio?
Do we? I
I'm
would
gonna
love
look.
to show you how easy it is to break out of a zip tie. Yeah. So Mark Wahlberg is tied up with zip ties and stuff, which are pretty easy in my opinion to break through, as I kind of have demonstrated. So yeah, whatever. It's whatever. I mean, it's not like make or break. Whatever. It's just like even me as a viewer, it's like I'm just trying to think what happens next. Honestly, I'm like,
Then they get Hassan on the radio.
well, yeah. So she has to contact like air control, figure out that hey, she's not a pilot. She's gonna go down. She gets on the plane with some guy who thinks it's a prank call. Like
Not gonna happen.
like
I'm
if
sorry.
again, if I was flying a plane and I heard someone calling for help immediately, I would be like, how can I help you and not be apprehensive? And I feel like I don't need to ask you if that's true or not because that's just like a basic human thing. It's like if you dial 911 and order a pizza, anyone knows, you're not brain dead,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh yeah, the pizza's 5'2" and has a gun. You know what I mean, right?
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't take a lot to kind of understand. But she's like, oh, it's a prank call, and then immediately is like, wait, it's not a prank call. So it was
Yeah,
so
it's like-
unnecessary that he didn't think it was like whatever.
Well, and I mean, I guess like they think like because like on those frequencies, it's called like an on-road or something like that where there's no air traffic control. If you're just in class golf, uncontrolled airspace, you're just flying along, making position reports to that other, and you're figuring out between yourselves as pilots. And there's not that kind of joking generally. I mean, you might have a little short, very, very brief conversation here or there, but in the interest of safety, you're leaving that frequency open as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Like, it that just wouldn't happen, and in my experience anyway.
Yeah, no, and he's just whatever. So this guy's like, "Hey, can't really help you," and I'll tell someone, and then like gets out of signal range, right? But then eventually she realizes, Madeline, that she has a phone,
Yeah.
a satellite phone, which she explains can use non-cell phone towers and satellites instead. And so all of a sudden, boom, we have Hassan on the line, and he is going to help us save the day. We also realize there's probably a mole in the FBI somewhere.
That's a
Or
whole subplot that was completely unnecessary
It
and
was
kind of
really-
ridiculous.
this movie would have been so good if they just focused on the fact that there's a murder on the plane with us,
Mhm.
and this shit's going to go down, and not like there might actually also be a mole in the FBI that I have to figure out while I'm on this plane and trying not to crash. So now we're going to give you two half-baked plots of a lady who's either going to crash a plane or figure out who the mole is, or both, or whatever. And so now we have two sublines that we don't care about because I'm not all that interested in figuring out who the mole is because I've only heard this lady's voice on the phone once. And also, guess what? The murder on the plane now is just asleep.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't inherently care that much. And I guess she's too focused on figuring out who the mole is and just talking to this guy who she's having like relations with on the phone.
That was also completely unnecessary.
I thought it was funny. I thought he was the funniest
It was
character.
funny. It was certainly funny, and he was clever, and I laughed the most when he was talking. However, again, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
When you're trying to help a non-pilot land a plane, not that I've done it, but I've listened to a lot of tapes of it happening.
I've seen a bunch on Instagram.
Yeah, they try and make people feel comfortable with a little bit of that superfluous talk and
Yeah, you're doing great, sweetie. Keep going. Yeah. Don't
right?
worry.
Like
Make sure your wind speed. Yeah.
Give them your name and just little things. Like there's one like a really good one where like this girl, she's like a student pilot. She loses her nose gear, and the guy's like, what's your name? I'm so and so, and he's like, my daughter's name is also whatever, and I taught her how to fly. You're gonna be great. We're gonna be just fine, right? So you want to have some of that natural, comforting kind of easy communication in there too, but not to the level that he is doing it. Like it's just too much.
It's not comfortable. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go on a date, and you're gonna love me, and we're gonna make love when we're done, and this is over.
Yeah, watch. He's gonna be like,
because I'm a hot Indian guy, and you sound great, woman on the phone.
Right, and then you're gonna meet there, and he's gonna be like a fucking slob, and it's like,
okay, listen, you practically catfished your girlfriend, so we're not gonna talk about it. No, it's just
gotta do what you gotta do.
It's just like, dude, like instead of like saving this poor woman. He's like, yeah, your voice, it sounds so sexy. No, I'm gonna call you back in 10 minutes when it's time to land. Like
that's
what?
My other problem. Try and conserve your sat phone battery. She never said her sat phone battery was a problem. Those kinds of devices are designed to have really long battery lives.
So whenever you're taking a phone call, let's say it's an hour. I've done an hour phone call. If your battery's on 50%, by the time the phone call's done, your battery's still at 30%. You know what I mean, right? Like it's like,
Well, that's on an iPhone. For us, it would go from 50 to 48%.
No, I bet that their satellite phone is better than the iPhone phone because it's not designed to kill itself.
I'm saying your iPhone is terrible compared to mine. You're saying, an hour-long call would reduce by 20%. I'm saying mine would be 2%.
No,
because I'm on the Android.
I'm trying to say that the satellite phone is probably better than an iPhone in general.
It would be.
It's probably not designed to murder itself the second it gets into contact with any element.
Like, I mean, you look at any of those kinds of equipment.
Oh, because you don't have an iPhone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. Okay, yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways.
But especially those like satellite and off-grid communication devices, they're designed to be a long time on battery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and why would also like him calling her back or her calling him back, either one? What if all of a sudden she has a problem? Her engine quits. She needs to be able to talk to him right away. Not get on her phone and dial it, right?
And if you're trying to keep someone calm and in control of a situation, being like, okay, I'll call you back. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You would never do that. The only time you'd lose contact is if you were transferring someone to another pilot or someone who's going to give you other advice, or someone in ATC who is going to take control of a situation, or a hostage negotiator, or if she said, right?
My sat phone is at 5%, right? Then that makes sense. But and also, he didn't give her any good instructions on how to land it. That was the other thing. As I'm watching her come into land,
you're like, go slow and stay calm.
Well, I like just also like when she puts all the flaps on at once, like what the fuck? Like it's just
okay. Well, it wasn't a smooth landing either. So
no, it wasn't. But like,
it wasn't a textbook landing.
But even just the approach and knowing when to flare and everything, like just.
He also shot a flare in the plane, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was way more in danger of igniting something.
I know, dude.
Than shooting.
We're not allowed to smoke in airplanes, but she launched a flare.
Well, and instead of just shooting him with a bullet, she shot him with a flare gun.
She shot a fire device. Oh my god! I'm not gonna shoot this armed bad guy who keeps trying to kill me multiple times.
I'm gonna throw a firework in his face.
Yeah, while we're in a flying bomb going Mach 4. Like,
That's not how mocks work.
whatever, mock. Whatever. I'm mocking this
Nope.
movie.
That was a good one. No, for reference, like your 737s and your commercial airliners, they're going around Mach 0.8 or under generally.
Yeah,
so.
when Tom Cruise went Mach 10, the new Fast and Furious, not the new
They
Top
did go to
Gun, that
space
was-
in the new
that-
Fast and Furious.
That was cool. I get it. Like Mach whatever.
Did you say that was cool?
It was like which?
Going to space in the newest
No,
Fast
no,
and Furious?
Top Gun when
Oh,
like
okay.
Mach 10 or 11 or whatever he went. Tom Cruise. That
Yeah,
was
it was
cool.
10.
Yeah, it was awesome. I don't know, man. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I get it. They're not going super fast, whatever. But you get my point.
I
It's
will
a
also say
flying
they,
ball of metal. It's flammable.
They slid for way too long on that runway. After
Is
she
there
came
kind of
crashing down.
bouncing, and then.
Yeah, that's called
sliding.
porpoising, which is it happens, right? It's not good, but it happens. But like then when they like the gear brakes and they're just sliding down the runway, it was way too long. Way too long.
But it gave us enough time to have a shot of Mark Wahlberg getting run over by a truck.
That
No, I
was
get it.
fun.
I'm probably wrong, but the first responders,
Yeah,
they're on the scene for the runway, sure. They're ready. But they're not tailgating the plane
they
as
are.
it crashed. Are
Yeah.
they actually?
Yep. Oh no, that's completely accurate. They're
Where-
waiting right
where-
at the end of
where-
the runway, and as soon as it comes on, they're like right there. They're following
No,
it as
but-
closely as
but-
possible.
But the distance they're following, they're having metal fly through the windshields and shit of the ambulances.
I'm gonna show.
Would they actually follow that close?
I'll overlay a video of
That's
of-
insane.
of ARF rescue. That's what they're called, ARF.
No, I listen. I get wanting to be there as close as possible. Now the fire truck should go first.
Well, that's the thing is your
and-
ambulances aren't doing that, and
Their
your police,
fire
and
truck
your
should be.
police cars.
If anyone,
I don't know why the fuck there's police
fire
cars
truck
there.
should go first. Put out the fire, and everyone else should be at a safe distance to where there's not pieces of metal flying into the ambulances and like causing them to crash. That I get it. It's an action sequence, but why? Why would you be doing that? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Here.
They're like tailgating it, and to the point where like the amount of money and they're putting more people in danger by doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and again, they run Mark Wahlberg over.
Yeah. Just hold on.
They were going close enough and fast enough that they took Mark Wahlberg out. Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Can I say why I said this?
Sure.
I had a bigger point because I don't know how close they actually follow.
And this is just cool. I want to try and find it.
I don't know how close they actually follow, but this is what my actual point was
Yep.
about this whole thing. The fire truck is going fast enough, but not fast enough at the same time. It's not fast enough that Mark Wahlberg gets a chance to stand up and look into the headlights, but so it's not going fast enough to instantly take him out, but it's going fast enough that it goes right through him, absolutely decimates him, but still is able to slow down in time for the plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's completely, the speed of it just is completely inaccurate because if the fire truck was going that fast, there's no way the plane must have been going as fast or faster, but we know it wasn't because it eventually came to a stop, right? Like just north of there, right? So it's like,
Nope.
it's like, yeah. I don't know, man.
Trying to find a good video of it. But yeah, they do like quite literally tailgate them down the runway.
Mm-hmm. Again, doesn't seem smart. Sorry, it makes sense to have fire trucks there and stuff like that to make sure everything's
can't
fine
find
at the
one, but I
start. To make sure, like, as soon as shit's going down, it's going down, right? Now, we already established that there's no fuel in the engines, so there's, like, the chance
Yeah.
of fires are lower. But, like, yeah, the fact that there's, like, pieces of debris flying through the windshields of ambulances and stuff like that, and they're not doing that. It's like,
Well,
okay, then why are we going that close if it's that much of a
your
problem, guys?
ambulances are not right there. That's the thing. It's only your fire trucks.
Right, and
that are right there,
that's
so.
all it should be. That's all it should be. So I was like,
And the police
that's like-
cars.
that's
I
a
don't know.
bigger
If,
problem.
I don't know. I have no fucking clue why the police cars were there. What the fuck are the police gonna do?
it's probably just because they have a fugitive in the plane.
I suppose maybe
Two
but-
fugitives, technically.
but-
And, yeah,
But even still, it's not a. I don't know.
yeah. I get it. They want a cool action sequence, but it's like, really, guys, we're going to be showing like ambulances crashing and stuff because there's pieces of debris falling. Like, why are you going that close? Like, wasn't, and the fire trucks are going fast enough that it kills Mark Wahlberg, but they're not going fast enough to stop, they're not going too fast. You know what I mean?
I mean, the plane would
That's
be
like-
slowly coming to stop. It's not like it's a brick wall and it's done.
No, but again, the fire truck too would also have to brake and do whatever.
Right, but I'm
So
saying
the fire truck, but like the fire truck hits Mark Wahlberg at a speed that I would estimate is about 90 kilometers an hour. If the plane was going 90 or more, it also needs to stop.
It is going.
But
for reference, like.
But you know what I mean? It stops.
Yeah.
It stops way before what 90 would be, right? If in terms of speed, like it stops pretty quickly after that, and Mark Wahlberg gets killed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be just the editing, but like for reference, a plane like an approach speed for a plane that size is probably going to be around 90 to 100 knots, which is effectively 100 miles an hour. So that's you're looking at like 150, 160 kilometers an hour. So that's pretty fast, you know.
Yeah, I'm saying the plane is going fast, and it eventually stops. But you know, it wasn't going 160 kilometers fast when it stopped all of a sudden, right? And but the fire truck was, and it just clean cut right through and eviscerated him. But like, anyway, I don't know anything about flying, but whatever, that happens. I guess she lands the plane. She meets Hassan or whoever, but they don't like actually get a chance to talk.
I wanted an end credit scene of them on a date.
Yeah,
That would have been a perfect end credit scene.
And then an assassin tries to murder Winston, like a bad guy from the FBI or someone.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen because Madeline decides to open fire in an ambulance and put a bullet through this guy's head.
Yeah, see, why couldn't you just done that on Mark Wahlberg? We just showcased her immaculate aim after 8 years of office work.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, here's the thing. I'm pretty confident she lost her gun at some point during that, right? Or ran up like...
I feel like she did, yeah.
It slipped or fell or something. So we're led to believe that she also got it back and had it in her pocket, and that was the first thing she grabbed after the crash was, oh, hey. Also, Winston gets stabbed, and he's bleeding out.
Oh, the fucking medical thing is
so
non-existent.
She gives him a shot of morphine, or maybe it was like a pre-dose, whatever. She gives him morphine, and so he just doesn't bleed out anymore.
I don't know. Well, and like
she's like, keep pressure on it, okay?
Yeah, and then she just goes and sits there.
She's like, keep pressure on it. Okay, I'm gonna keep pressure on it. Okay, give us him a bunch of morphine, and then just no one puts pressure on it anymore.
Right. He doesn't put pressure on it, and like she's not even flying the plane. She's just sitting there contemplating life.
Even worse, wouldn't that thin your blood technically?
I think so.
To a point where you'd be bleeding more?
Yeah, like morphine is a painkiller. Making like pain is the least of your problems right now, right? Like And also, even if you don't keep pressure on it, like, you know, use something around to tie it to keep pressure on it or something.
She doesn't tell the first responders that she gave him morphine.
Oh, that was me too. I'm like, are you going to tell? Like,
that might be maybe helpful information.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Like, oh, I gave him a shot of morphine.
3 times the legal limit of morphine. And he's on cloud 9, by the way. He's not just, he didn't just have a good crash landing, just so you know. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Like,
oh, man. Whatever. Suspension of disbelief. She told him when the camera cut away to a different person, but like, yeah.
That describes this whole movie.
Yeah, just like
I can't do it.
And then we find out Mel Gibson directed it, and we're like, wow.
Yeah, like you said, that was the biggest plot twist of the whole movie.
Let me throw in some facts, and then I think we can get out of here pretty quick.
Fact 1, it was shit. Fact 2, it was dog shit. Fact 3, it was horse shit. Fact 4, it was bullshit.
Wow. Okay, well, Mark Wahlberg actually shaved his head.
I actually thought there was a skull cap. I thought I could see a line for it.
I was looking, but I didn't see it. He actually did shave his head, apparently. There was 22 days of production, which makes sense. Not a very long time. Yep. Seems right for the budget, right? Like I said, you could do the hotel stuff in one day, or the motel, whatever. Yep. You can do all the runway stuff in a day, maybe 2 days if you want to get all the lighting really crazy. You know, all the ADR stuff, it's all over the phone, right? And all the plane stuff, right?
Yeah.
Inside, probably green screen plane that has movements and stuff like that. So all the actors are in a green screen, but in a plane, like in a plane that's in a green screen room that's on hydraulics, that's moving and doing.
I doubt they were
like
using a real plane.
Prop plane, whatever, but it's like on a hydraulic
I know what
system,
you
so
mean,
it's
yeah.
like moving and stuff like that. That's how I'd assume they were doing
Yeah.
it. But
Because
that
they
money,
would have
they'd
had to
build
have
it.
removed the walls for some of those shots.
Mhm.
A lot of the shots, actually. So
Yeah, and so the plane crashes. We do all that stuff. This is Mel Gibson's shortest film.
yeah, it was. I was glad it was as short as it was. I was about this close to walking out of the theater.
It's too expensive to
so
walk out.
many
I'm
times.
going to be honest.
Oh, that was the only reason I stayed, is because I spent $30 on this. Goddamn, I'm going to get my $30 worth, even if it's a $30
I
worth
watched
of-
someone walk out
of
of the theater,
temper
just so you
tantrums.
know. I watched someone walk out of the theater. And I was like, oh, maybe they're just going to the bathroom. No, they had their bag in their hand. They left. For sure they left, because they didn't come back either.
I fucking.
Yeah. It's 2 hours and 1 minute is his longest film. That's Ransom, 96. This one was an hour and 31 minutes.
Yeah.
So, half an hour shorter, whatever. I thought there's not a ton of information in this film or trivia, whatever. So I figured I'd just throw in some interesting
Yeah.
facts. Kill him? Why not just kill him? I wrote that there. Just kill him.
Why not?
You've already established he's a danger to you and the safety of a government witness. I'm not like him, so I'm not going to kill him. My brother in Christ, he stabbed you. He stabbed him. He said he was gonna molest you. Just kill him. Just kill him. Just do it. He's established that he is a big risk that needs
Officer,
to be neutralized.
I don't know. The door just popped open and he wasn't secure, and it's just I don't know what happened. I'm not a pilot. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
The tongue, Mark Wahlberg's tongue. Why?
Which one?
He just keeps going,
Oh yeah.
licking his teeth and
Well,
lips.
because he's trying to play like this, like hick backcountry pilot. I don't. It was.
Yeah. It's not terrible, but not good. It's not bad enough to be good, but it's
The
not
movie?
good enough to not be bad.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's just bad.
Yeah.
It is just awful. It is completely awful.
The maiden FBI plot. I'm gonna be honest. It just, like I said, it doesn't work for me. I would rather have focused on a more horror element of oh my god, I don't know how to fly a plane. I'm freaking out. I just had to kill a dude or whatever, and my passenger's bleeding out, and now I have to figure out how to stitch his wounds or something and land this plane. Crazy drama. This is gonna be insane. But no, it's now we're gonna be he said, she said on the phone, and now we're going to completely forget about flying this plane, and we're going to leave the guy, the murderer who's alive, back there, so we know that we can do a cut-in shot after the end of every scene to see how close he's getting to escaping for the third time. And it's I just don't care about any of it.
Best
right?
shot in the whole movie. The thumb. The thumb
when the
where
credits.
he
Sorry.
yeah, too. No, but when he breaks his thumb and
Yeah,
he's
that's
pulling
pretty
it out,
good.
that
Yeah,
and the
that's pretty good.
skin is moving. That
And
was.
there is some nice shots. It doesn't look bad.
Well, like I
right?
said to you guys, it is hard to make a movie that looks bad. Like the actual look of the movie, the visuals, the stuff, and that. In this day and age, it is with any budget of any amount, it is hard to make a movie that looks bad. It just is. You know.
I don't know. It was pretty cookie cutter, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there was any in crazy shots and cinematography that was oh my god, it deserves an Oscar.
Yeah.
It's January is dump month for a reason. Can I say it's the worst movie I've watched in the last year? Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
For sure.
It wasn't that entertaining, man. And I get it. It doesn't want to take itself too seriously sometimes, but
I thought
you know
they
what I
took
mean?
themselves too seriously for how bad it was.
yeah, it's not funny enough. If it's not there is some funny moments, but a lot of the humor is kind of just oh, really? You were thinking that's funny? A lot of it was just, yeah, I don't know, man. I just.
Okay, let's rate it. I'm done. I can't
done
talk
too.
about it anymore.
What do you rate it?
2.
2 out of 10?
Yeah.
What? Okay, well, I'll be a little more generous. It's a 5 out of 10 for me.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Oh.
I would say maybe 4.5. No, I'd say it's a 5. It's not boring. It's just bad.
Mystery Men was only 0.5 better than this.
4.5.
You give Mystery Men 4.5. You're giving this 5.
What? I'd like a Mystery Man a 6.
No.
Whatever.
It
Give this a 4.5.
was like a 4.5 or a 5.
I'll give this a 4.5 then.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just not that great. And it's just, yeah. Don't pay to go to see this, especially. Don't pay to see this movie.
No.
See it at home. If you want to have an okay night, I guess. Like
No,
it's,
if you want to scream at your TV. Sorry, if you're a non-pilot, yeah, you'll have an okay.
again,
night, I
it's not.
suppose. If you're a pilot,
not
just
like
just
the
I'm gonna save you
worst-
the I'm gonna save you the trouble. There's no point.
It's not the worst movie ever. It's
Yes,
just
it is.
so. It's just so interestingly bad. Like it's like even the parts. I'm giving it a benefit of doubt because, like, again, I'm not as interested in the whole technical pilot elements because I feel like that's really close to home for you. But it's like, for me, it's just like, God, it's so predictable. And I think, whatever, we're out of time to talk about this, but I think that's something we should talk about in the future is how predictable it feels like movies are nowadays because this is just so
Well, it's
predictable.
something we were talking about the other day, just briefly, about how there's only 7 basic movie plots. And every single movie follows one of those 7 or a combination of those 7 plots, and it's just different window dressing. And
I don't know.
you
This
know,
just felt cookie cutter, like
Yeah.
Hollywood, whatever. I don't know. It feels like I'd seen this movie 100 times in 100 different ways, and then it was just less funny. But it's like, it goes to what I said last week's episode, or 2 weeks episodes ago when I said Misery. Like, you know, when the bad guy's down, maybe give them a quick, make sure they're really down. You know what I mean? And they could have just, whatever. Maybe it would be a shorter movie if they didn't do that. But it's just like, there was just a lot to it. But again, you miss out. If they would have just popped and killed Mark Wahlberg and then have the actual problem of we're running out of fuel, this plane's going to crash, we don't know where we are, I don't know how to have, and now my passenger's bleeding out. Cool. That's still dramatic. That's still awesome. And now we don't
Or,
have
like,
to worry
maybe-
about a bunch of...
maybe like a subplot of, like, you know how he sabotaged the GPS and stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe that's, maybe that's your subplot. Like, maybe he took out the SD card or something, the data card for it. Maybe you have to try and find the data card or something like that. Like, that's your subplot.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so many different directions they could have that would have.
She's trying to phone in a mole in the FBI or wherever. And
There's a reason she was on desk duty.
she just knows who the mole is in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was the viewing room. Flight Risk came out 2 weeks ago. Let us know what you thought about it. And just don't go see it. Don't see it in the theaters, please. I love seeing movies in the theaters. This was not worth it. It's not horrible, but it's just
Yes,
not.
it is.
It's just not that great.
It's horrible.
It's pretty bad.
It's horrible. Don't
yeah.
let him fool you. It was horrible.
Yeah, just. There's gonna be some good laughs if you're going and you're just trying to have a little bit of giggles. You know what I mean? There's gonna be some stuff that makes you laugh, but overall, it's pretty weak. If you're easily entertained though, and you don't really care about any of that stuff, then you might have a fantastic time. But it's just not there for us. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for watching The Viewing Room. We have an Instagram at @theviewingroom_ and a Patreon at Dufferin Ave Media. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.